now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. LA can run. Inside the 10. Head first. He flies off the 5-yard line. My goodness.
Rushing forward, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Warren at the 4-yard line.
Manning out of the gun. Manning lets it fly. It's caught by Thomas. There's the record for Peyton Manning.
The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm got him free to the 30, to the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime.
And welcome to the show. My name is Mundungus Creevy, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Glenn Hauser. We also want to welcome Bronco, Bill, and Jeremy Case from MHRT Networks' new neighborhood play-by-play show and the Cluster Puck podcast is starting Season 3. You are currently listening to the 5280 podcast on the MHRT Network. We are a fan-led Broncos-based podcast doing our absolute best to bring you good stuff. Always. All the time. Wasn't sure what to say there. So we're going to go ahead and move forward because joining us on the show tonight, he plays safety for the Denver Broncos, is a former coach. He's a media personality in Denver as well as an all-around fantastic person. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Ferguson. What's going on, buddy?
Welcome back, Nick.
Hello, Nick.
Hey, it's great to see so many very enthusiastic faces. So thanks for having me.
Well, we try to be as enthusiastic as possible, even when we don't want to be.
All right.
So I am going to start this thing off with, I think, probably the most important question that's ever been asked of you, of anyone ever. Why have we not seen you on American Ninja Warrior yet?
Well, have you obviously you've seen that show before.
I love that show.
Yeah, listen, I love that show as well, but there's a lot of jumping and torquing and turning. And after 10 years in the NFL, I can't really do that anymore, guys. I mean, you know the first hurdle was they have those little side-to-side things that you have to jump on to get to the first platform. Do you realize I've had 2 knee injuries? So if I were to go down in the first part of that show, do you know what my teammates would say about me? So I don't put myself in those situations. So it would be great because we love the show. My kids love the show. But then also, let's just say I get past that part. Then you've seen those little jumping apparatuses where you have to inch along with your fingers. Have you seen my fingers? Have you seen these fingers? So no, I would love to do the show, but I cannot do it because I'm ill-equipped due to my football injuries.
Man.
So Nick, a week from tomorrow, the Broncos start their training camp, and I just kind of wanted to pick your brain about not only your experiences as a player, but as a coach. And we'll start with the player part. So what was training camp like as a guy fighting for a job versus a guy that was secure in his starting position?
To give it to you in a nutshell, it was hell, right? because once again, when you are a guy fighting for a position, you are, low on the totem pole. And we always hear this phrase, well, a guy who's on the bubble. First of all, you're not even on the bubble. There's no such thing as a bubble because you are so low on the totem pole and you're clawing and fighting for every single inch that you get. Every rep, every coach would always tell you, every rep actually counts. But when you are a guy fighting as an undrafted free agent, every single rep does count. And keep this in mind, once we get to training camp, it's different than what it was like, in maybe OTAs and mini camp where every single guy got a chance to showcase what he can do. When it comes to training camp, no, we don't have that much time because there's only 3 preseason games and we need to make sure that the veterans are ready and prepared. So your reps were already low. They just got sliced in half again. So pull out the Ginsu knife because now your reps are cut in half. So you may only get 1 rep let's just say in the game, you have to be impressive in that one rep. You make one mistake, one misassignment, one missed tackle. Guess what? That's the difference between making a team and being unemployed.
Wow. I got one for you, and so nice to be on the show with you. I appreciate it. What drew you to Georgia Tech and not Florida State or Florida University? And what was your major?
Well, my major was business. And here's a little quick story. Like I transferred in to Georgia Tech from an HBCU in Atlanta. And when I transferred in, I had these big thoughts and big dreams of being an architect. And at first, when I transferred in, it was like, yeah, I'm going to take all these industrial classes. I'm going to be an architect, and I'm going to graduate from Georgia Tech. And if I don't make it in the league, I'm going to get a good job. But here's what I learned, and I learned it really fast. When you start to go through that progress of going from a high school athlete to a college athlete, they call you a student athlete. Mm-hmm. Once you get on campus, they reverse those words. You are an athlete student. So when I took those classes, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be an architect, but I quickly learned that football comes first. So after struggling one semester trying to get from my industrial classes to practice, I quickly learned, you know what? I need to make a quick change, or I'm going to burn out really fast. So I switched to a business major, which allowed me to get my degree and play football at the same time. Now, to answer the first question, why not Florida State, University of Florida, or the University of Miami? Mm-hmm. Of course, I love University of Miami. I think the first colors that you learn as a kid growing up in Miami are orange and green. But things didn't work out for me that way in high school because I was a late bloomer. My mom didn't want me to play football. So everything came slowly for me, and it didn't happen at the right time for me. So I had to choose a school in Atlanta, and that was the HBC school, but it gave way to me going to Georgia Tech.
All right. Can I bring up a follow-up question too?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Being an alum of Georgia Tech, did you have a special relationship at all with Demaryius Thomas when you're on the Broncos?
Well, yeah, I did because all Georgia Tech guys kind of stayed together. Even if we didn't play with certain guys, we still have a close-knit group because when you look at our school as a whole, there are not too many players from Georgia Tech in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And once again, my situation going from Georgia Tech to the NFL, it was really different because no one walks on to Georgia Tech. Then you're an undrafted free agent, and then you go on to play a decade in the NFL. That just doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. So because we were a close-knit group, we definitely stayed together. And I'll tell you guys this. When I did a coaching internship with the Broncos during the Super Bowl 50 Super Bowl run, I was around Demaryius. We got a chance to really sit and talk. So his passing definitely hit home for so many reasons because he's a Georgia Tech alum, he's a Bronco alum, and hell, he's part of the NFL. So we try to stay together as much as we can. Obviously, guys are dispersed while they're playing and once they retire. But once again, Demaryius was a huge part of Georgia Tech history as he will be a part of the Broncos history.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
All right, Nick. So Shadow Jacker's got a question. He says, what was your welcome to the NFL moment?
Ooh, welcome to the NFL moment. See, my welcome to the NFL moment, goes or starts a little earlier than the Broncos. So I would have to go back to a moment when I was playing for the New York Jets. And at that time, Bill Parcells had kind of moved from being a coach into, a personnel type of position. And I don't know if you guys ever heard of a guy by the name of Bill Parcells, but he is one tough cookie. Now, remember when I came over from the Jets, from the Bills practice squad, and he's like, son, the reason we brought you over because we thought you were one hell of a player. And he was like, you haven't made a special teams tackle yet. And I remember, here's the moment. I just wanted to set that up. So I'm getting ready to walk out of the weight room. And then Parcells walks in and he comes in with Brian Cox. and he stops me and he says, Brian, what do you think of this guy? Right. So Brian kind of gave his evaluation of me, and Parcells was like, hell, I don't think he's that type of guy. I don't think he's going to develop into a guy because he hasn't made a special teams tackle yet. And then in that moment, he gave me a nickname that I quickly got away from, but he called me the Phantom. And if you're wondering why he called me the Phantom, is because I had no special teams tackles up to that point.
Wow. Good
I don't
story.
know if I can let you live that one down. I think this is what we're gonna So go ahead, Bill, or Glenn.
I was going to say, you just mentioned that you were a coaching intern with the Broncos during Super Bowl 50 season. So what does a coaching intern do? What was it like being behind the scenes or totally immersed with not only that offense, but that incredible defense? And did you get a Super Bowl ring for that?
Oh man, no, I did not get a Super Bowl ring. I wish, and I want to approach the Broncos and say, well, I did do the coaching internship, so don't I deserve a ring? But no, it was different, because when you go, it's like when you go from being a server to being a cook. I mean, things are entirely different the way that things operate. When you are a player, you're an asset or a liability to be utilized or instrument as they will. But once you go into that coaching ranks, you understand how a roster is put together, how players are evaluated. And I have to tell you, it made me look back at my career, and I was like, man, so Mike Shanahan actually sat around and they had conversations about me and trying to determine whether I would make the roster or not. But it was great seeing things from the other side of the veil to see how things are put together. And you mentioned the defense. Wade Phillips was in Buffalo when I was there, but he also was there when I was plucked off the practice squad and taken to the New York Jets. So there was a working relation that we had. But I'll tell you this, as a defensive player and a coach, I tried to spend more time with the offense than I did with the defense. And here's a little story. So Greg Knapp, may he rest in peace, he was a quarterbacks coach. So when you look in the quarterback room, Greg Knapp is there. I think Zach Dysert was there. It was, who else was there? Peyton Manning, of course, he was there. Brock Osweiler was there as well. So one day, Coach Cool opens the door and he sees me sitting in the quarterback's room. And he's like, hey, what the hell are you doing in here? You're a defensive guy. I said, Coach, really think about it. If the quarterback is considered to be the face of the franchise and you can't win a Super Bowl without one, and I'm a defensive guy, wouldn't it serve me best to be in the room with them, learning everything that they know? And I'll tell you guys this. I've played against Peyton Manning my entire career, from the Jets to the Broncos to the Texans. And when I say he was a royal pain in my ass, I really truly mean that. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. Right. Don't get me wrong. I love the guy. I love the player. But, man, he made it really difficult to beat him. So I sat there in the room and I watched him diagnose plays. And I'm sitting there going like, man, you know how much money I would have given to have this level of insight so I could have beat him like 5 years ago? But once again, it was a teaching moment for me to let me know how much more about football that I need to learn. So I sat in those quarterback meetings trying to figure out what he knows.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's why Nick still lives in Denver, because he's going to the Broncos like, listen, the Phantom is not leaving Denver until I get my Super Bowl 50 ring. And then I'll leave.
Yes, of course.
The Parcells, Brian Cox, good cop, bad cop act that they pulled. But I know we're tight on time, but if you don't mind me asking one other question. You mentioned Mike Shanahan. He was your coach the entire time with the Broncos, and now he's a finalist, or semifinalist, I should say, for the Hall of Fame. The finalists are going to be named shortly. What do you think about his candidacy? And if you had to speak in front of the Hall of Fame voters, what would you say?
Well, I would say, enough of this Broncos bias that you guys have bestowed upon us for so many years, because it's almost like if there's two Broncos players or coach for the Hall of Fame, it's almost like they cancel one another out. And my problem is that we don't see that with the Dallas Cowboys. We don't see that with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it just seemed like when it comes to the Denver Broncos, that rule is in place. And I'll say, well, when we look at a guy going into a Hall of Fame as a player or as a coach, how did he impact the game? when we look around the NFL right now, the impressions or the legacy of Mike Shanahan is still involved. If you look at Mike LaFleur, who is the offensive coordinator with the Jets, well, he's a Shanahan guy. Matt LaFleur, his brother, is the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, another Shanahan guy. When you look at Zach Taylor with the Cincinnati Bengals, another Shanahan guy. Sean McVay, Shanahan guy, right? Now, obviously, Kyle, that's his father, Shanahan guy as well. So when you look at some of the coaches in the NFL right now, I mean, there's the presence of Mike Shanahan all around, and believe it or not, most people think that Mike does not have an influence on today's game. I just gave you a couple of coaches. Now, I'm not going to tell you, how the sausage is made, but let me tell you that Mike Shanahan is still a very influential guy in this game. So a guy having that much influence on today's game and how it's played, how can you not vote him in? And once again, he has back-to-back Super Bowls. Right, does that not count for anything? And also, here's the cherry on top. We know about the great number 7 in John Elway, right? We know under Dan Reeves, he went to several Super Bowls. But how about this? John Elway didn't win his first Super Bowl until, let me see, Mike Shanahan, right? So if you have Terrell Davis in the Hall of Fame, Steve Atwater in the Hall of Fame, John Elway in the Hall of Fame, Shannon Sharp in the Hall of Fame, how can you not have the maestro himself in the Hall of Fame? Please feel free to explain.
We're sending that recording to Canton right now.
That's exactly what we're doing. I know the time is tight. I know you got some stuff to do, so we want to thank you so much for joining us.
Wait, hold on.
You go.
Wait, yeah, I'll give you 5 more minutes.
Oh, snap.
You got 5 more minutes.
Well, I got a question then, if you don't mind, Nick. Yeah. So it's for those who know your playing career, you did spend some extensive time in the Canadian Football League, and obviously now there has been the resurgence of the USFL. Now it's soon to be the XFL coming up, and I believe they have signed a partnership with the Canadian Football League as well. Can you describe maybe the importance to that in your career and how that might give players who necessarily weren't looked at as valuable to a team the first time around might then get a second chance to be valuable again because of these leagues?
Well, each one of those leagues are a little different. And what it boils down to is reps and visibility, right? And we look at these leagues, some are a little more marketable than others. Now, we just had the USFL just finished their season, and I think it was Birmingham Stallions won that championship. But now when you start to look at the XFL, things have changed now because, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has taken over. I mean, I saw something a couple of days ago where they were having somewhat of like a scouting combine at Jackson State, and Deion Sanders were talking. So right now they're starting to brand that league and go back to what we saw earlier this year at the Super Bowl. Now, something took place that we had never seen before and had never happened before. Tell me when you've ever seen before a kickoff, someone does the announcement of the kickoff right on the field. No one did that but Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So the NFL has become really creative as to branding their game and branding their partnership. So that partnership with the XFL and Dwayne "Rock" Johnson, that's going to help a lot of those players because it comes down to, once again, visibility. So this is where you need those television deals to make sure that those players get the notoriety they deserve. And then also you're sending that tape and that film to NFL teams saying, hey, listen, we have a DB, but it wasn't highly touted coming out of college. But if you look at this tape, man, this guy jumps off the screen, considered to be a starter from the get-go. This is a guy who definitely can add, value to your special teams unit and add valuable depth to your team. And that's where
I believe Nick froze.
Oh, no.
Was that 5 extra minutes?
5 minutes.
Like 5. Boom, I'm done. Cut. No, it would have been fun. I would have loved to seen Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson announce the special teams kickoff during the kickoff. That would have been fun.
Well, and The Rock also knows the importance of the CFL as well. I mean, even though he was cut from that league, he understands the importance of how that could revive a player's career, and guys like Kurt Warner too, and Doug Flutie, and those guys. They understand how crucial those leagues were to their career.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the original USFL.
I think I probably should remove Nick, but at the same time, oh man, I was gonna say screenshot that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then put the Phantom underneath, right?
Yeah. So again, even though we didn't get to hear the closing arguments he was making, we do want to thank Nick for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
All of his details are down below in the description, but you can follow him on Twitter at @NickFerguson_25. He's also been uploading a lot of videos on Twitter and on YouTube, which is the Nick Ferg Show without the, so Nick Ferg Show. And that's, again, down in the description below. So make sure you follow him on those as well. Now, let's get into our main topics of the day. And I definitely wanted to include you two because, as I mentioned in the intro, during Season 3, when Season 3 of the MHRT Network starts, you are going to be included or running or be a part of, or whatever you want to say, of The Neighborhood, which is now a play-by-play show for the Avalanche and the Broncos. So I want to thank you both for taking that show, because that's going to be a whole lot of work, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah,
so I wanted to get your guys' information. See, now he's back. See, you gave me 5 minutes and then you jump right back in. I had already been like, thanks, Nick. This is what you follow him on. We appreciate you for being on, and he jumped back in again.
Well, I just want to wrap it really quick. Those leagues are so valuable and important, not to the growth and development of those players participating, but the growth and development of the league. And here's the reason why I say that. Every single year, we have so many guys at different positions who want to be the highest paid at their respective positions. There's got to be a breaking point. And the one way that the league can offset that is by making sure that they have an overabundance of talent that they can pick and choose. Now, does it put the players who are the top money earners in a situation financially? Absolutely. But the whole idea is providing competition. And for me, I want to see these other guys get these opportunities, because if it wasn't for the CFL, if it wasn't for NFL Europe, myself and a lot of other players wouldn't have had a chance to expand their dreams to be a part of the NFL. So I love it. I am all for these guys getting an opportunity, but I'm also for guys getting paid as well. So you have a lot of guys who probably would have become insurance salesmen or something like that. They get a chance to live out their dream, even if it's for 2 years, even if it's for 10 years, or like I played a decade. The idea is that, man, we all have dreams as kids, and seldom do we get a chance to live those out. So if it only survives the XFL or the CFL, so be it. But you play professional football when, in other terms, you would not.
Go ahead. And I like that, Nick, because, starting this draft especially, and you have the NIL and all that coming out of college, you see a change in attitude in all those draft picks there. And they've already kind of sort of been paid coming out of college now going forward, at least until that ends. And so hopefully these two leagues can keep those guys in check and really push out the talent and competition for everybody to strive. I like that take. I like that view.
All right, Nick. So again, again for us, you missed it. But we want to thank you so much for joining us on the show today. If you do want to follow Nick Ferguson, he's on Twitter at @NickFerguson_25. He's also got some great content he's putting up on Twitter and on YouTube on his Nick Ferg Show page on YouTube. So make sure you go check that out. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope we can talk to you again.
Oh, absolutely, man. Training camp is right around the corner. So there's going to be a lot to talk about and digest based on what's taking place at practice. So, yes, we will, in fact, do this again.
Awesome. Just hit me up and let me know when you want to jump back on. We're always open for you.
All right. hey, as long as you don't open up with calling me the Phantom, which I know you're probably going to do now.
Why are you taking away from me now? I was so excited.
So basically, if you call Nick the Phantom, he's going to ghost you, right? So.
Good. No. It is part of my history. If you want to do that, hey, listen, I wear that. That was a part of my history, so I won't be opposed to it.
All right, Nick, you go do what you need to do. You go have fun.
All right, guys, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I love that guy.
All right.
Yeah, he's great. His
energy is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm
Probably
going to see how far I can get calling him the Phantom.
Also, probably a part of one of the most underrated Broncos defenses of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I mean,
right? Like those forgotten, 2003, 2009.
Yeah, that defense was so lost in the hype of Tebow because everybody was just all over Tebow, but they forget,
Don't go there, Mark.
Those defenses kept them were able to make Tebow make those plays. Yeah. They kept them in the games.
All right, so one thing that happened, I want to say it was either last week or the week before that. I don't remember. Justin Simmons was finally ranked the number 1 safety in the NFL. And I say finally because he should have been a year or two ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know why he wasn't.
No, I'm happy for him. I mean, the value of Justin is not only on the field, but just also his leadership, just the way he carries himself. I mean, the guy is a complete package on and off. And so for him to be named the number 1 safety, I know.
Got too much orange on.
It's the orange shining off the head. That's what it is.
It's the crappy wood paneling in the back too. But well-deserved ranking. It comes from ESPN too, so that's ESPN as well, not ESPN2. So,
ESPN owns ESPN2, so it comes from ESPN2 too.
It's not the Ocho.
It should be.
What do you guys think?
Well, first off, I love the guy. I love his play. I agree. He should have been the best safety couple years ago. He's like a leader on the field. I mean, he's got young guys back there now. He has that he can mentor and he can basically be that leader that needs to be in the secondary of the defense. And to be ranked number 1, I know it's not going to go to his head. That's not the kind of guy that he comes off to me as being. Comes off to me as being like I mentioned before, a leader. Somebody who will take like Pat Surtain under his wing and just mold him and make him the best he can. He's like a field general on the defense. And I'm glad that ESPN has finally recognized how great this guy is.
Well, exactly what you said there, Bill. I mean, he's obviously the defensive leader on this team. Going into this year, and seems to be is going to be for a while, unless the Broncos pick up another seasoned veteran player to come in and be that DeMarcus Ware type, like there was in 2015. I mean, yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. I know a lot of other teams and fan bases are going to completely disagree with it, obviously, but I mean, there's nobody as shut down in the secondary as he is. There's just really not. And he's a very, very, very highly valued piece to this Broncos team and to this defense. And the core of what is going to be put on the field this year is going to be at the head or ran at the head of Justin Simmons this year. So absolutely well deserved.
I'm just glad they signed him. I'm glad they kept him.
Yeah, that was making me nervous there for a minute.
I was going to say, does how he starts the season, how he plays through the season depend on who he's starting beside? Like whether it's going to be Kareem Jackson or whether it's going to be Caden Stearns? Because, I mean, we don't even know technically who's going to start next to him. Because, I mean, obviously they brought K-Jack back, but that doesn't mean that he's going to start.
Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I think he's kind of like a Peyton Manning type where it's like it doesn't matter who you throw on the field, he's going to make them better just because of his leadership qualities in the locker room. That leadership and that football IQ can just it could make me look like an NFL quality player. It's just, it's so invaluable to you can't put a price on it to what that means to an organization and to a locker room. I mean, it's more so his leadership than anything, really, in my opinion.
I mean, you can throw whatever leadership around you want. I will never look like an NFL cowboy. It doesn't matter.
Mine looks like an NFL like.
I look like an NFL water boy that
Kicking
doesn't
team.
want to move.
Hey, but if you had a goal and you had Justin Simmons as your life coach, I'm sure you could achieve anything you want to with that guy in your ear all day long. Because he's that good. He's a motivator of men. He really is.
Apparently, I'm no Justin Simmons because Mike was complaining 5 minutes after meeting me.
I don't know what you're talking about. I would never do
But, and it's no secret I love Justin, but I don't know if you guys saw the behind the Broncos with Russell and Justin just sitting in the director's chairs. And the last 3 minutes when Russell kind of turned the tables on Justin and was putting in a good word for him to win the Walter Payton Man of the Year. So he spent basically 25% of the show talking about all the stuff he does in the community versus anything that was related to the team. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Absolutely.
Well, so kind of speaking into leadership and leading into Russell Wilson, I kind of wanted to address this because a question came across on my Twitter that said, can Russell Wilson elevate the current receiving core? So Sutton, Judy Patrick, you could throw Albert O in there as well, to the level that Peyton Manning elevated Demaryius Thomas, Decker, Welker, and Julius Thomas. Are we going to be able to see another receiving core like we did in 2013?
Absolutely. That's just my belief. I think that's already started. As soon as he came to Denver and within a few days, he was taking his receivers down to San Diego in a house he has there and working with them. And what better way to get that chemistry going than to start right away. And I've seen multiple videos of where he's working out at night. He's got lights up and everything. He's doing everything he can to make sure that when they hit the ground running, so to speak, in preseason or OTAs or whatever practice, that they are on point. And I think it's already started, and there's no doubt in my mind that this receiving core is going to be electric.
They're actually out there in San Diego right now. I mean, they were Russell posted them sitting at a restaurant, and it was just this long table. So there's a whole troop of the guys hanging out, and the difference in them being there now versus earlier on is that they have the playbook. So they're actually doing the real plays that they're going to be running. And I mean, just the value leading in, I don't know how many days they're going to be there prior to training camp, but they'll probably give themselves a few days off before starting. But I mean, my goodness, this guy with this quality of receiver, being able to throw bombs, being able to throw sideline passes, being able to throw slants. I mean, I cannot wait. I'm so excited. I mean, Jeff actually mentions an interesting comment too, and that is exactly where I'm at. I mean, I am just so jacked up for the potential of this offense. I mean, the defense has been good the last few years. The offense just has not caught up with that, and I'm dying. And Jeremy is somebody that's going to be doing the play-by-play during, our network's shows on game day. You must be just absolutely chomping at the bit to do that especially after calling some Stanley Cup, championships. So
I am. I got to be a little bit real here because I know we're all fans, and it looks great on paper. I'm not going to lie, but I'm going to say eventually, because here are two qualities that it's going to depend on. It's going to depend on chemistry with the relationship of the quarterback and his receivers, and something that nobody is thinking about right now is the offensive line play. That's going to dictate a big portion of how good this wide receiving core could be. Because if Russell's going to have to scramble like he did in Seattle all around, which we don't know if that's a certainty yet because we haven't seen this offensive line play. The chemistry is still very new within this offense. There's a lot of new pieces. It's still got to gel, a completely new offensive coordinator. I don't even know what type of offense this guy wants to run. who's ever running the offense. You know, that could be completely different within himself. I know Russell Wilson is going to have a huge part in that. He's going to have a huge say in that, obviously, because you don't tell a quarterback like Russell Wilson to take a back seat and it's my offense and we're going to run it the way I want to, obviously. But those two things are going to be crucial to how this wide receiving core is. If everything is up to snuff and it runs completely well, like we all hope it will, then yeah, absolutely. But it's gonna take some time. I need Broncos fans to understand that it's going to take time. Yes, it's going to look magnificent like about the first 4 or 5 games because we're not really facing any competition. But come that 6 through 17, it's gonna get rough sometimes. And there might be some times where we might get the brakes beaten off of us, and we might not be able to respond in the way that we'd hope to. So,
I hear what you're saying. I think the main difference between this year and last year, aside from Russell, is that the philosophy of the coaching staff is one that, they're modeling the offense around the talent that they have, the skill set that they have. Whereas, as you described, you don't tell Russell Wilson, here's the offense and you're playing it. Like Pat Shermer would actually have done that.
Yeah. The leadership is in lockstep, obviously, all between the defense, offense, and coaching. That's something we haven't seen in quite a long time since the Peyton Manning days, quite honestly, within this Broncos team.
And the other thing I was going to allude to as far as the topic of can Russell Wilson elevate these receivers? I think these receivers are excited. Can you imagine the excitement of having a Russell Wilson on a team when you spent the last 4 years with a Drew Lock or 3 years?
Burn.
Well, I'm just saying. Think about it.
We always get in trouble when we bring up that guy's name. So careful, Bill.
Sorry. The other guy.
Number 2.
Yeah. Number 2.
Yeah. So, but I just think that they're really excited about having a Russell Wilson.
Also, we need to see the maturation of Jerry Jeudy. We need to. He needs to mature a little bit more, both on the field and off the field. I don't want to see any tweets out of Jerry Jeudy this year anymore about throw me the ball. And I think he knows that. And I think him and Russell probably have had those conversations of like, hey, handle it within the locker room.
Yeah, but I also don't think he's going to have to tweet that. I think he's actually going to be throwing the ball. This guy was a decoy. He was a first round, top 3 route runner in the NFL, being used as a decoy. And that was the thing. I mentioned it before on the show, but I feel so fortunate that George Payton was able to get Cortland and Patrick locked in at the time.
The rate he did.
Not only at the rate he did, but at the time he did, because they stopped throwing to those guys the last few games of the year. Noah Fant should not have been our leading receiver on the team last year, and he was. And I don't think they would have resigned with the Broncos had the year ended that way, unless George pulled them aside, did the huddle and said, guys, I have a good gift coming your way. But who knows at that point if he's able to do that.
Yeah, and it might not be a popular opinion, but in my opinion, as much as I love Cortland Sutton, as much as I love Tim Patrick, I don't think either one of them is going to be the leading receiver on the Broncos. I think it's going to be Jerry Jeudy. And I don't see any reason why Jerry Jeudy is not top 3 in the NFL. With the amount of separation that he gets, why would he not be a potential number 1 wide receiver in the NFL? I think he's got the higher ceiling or the ability to be the number 1 receiver instead of a Cortland Sutton or Tim Patrick. Nothing against Cortland Sutton or Tim Patrick, but I look at Cortland Sutton more of a big time catch guy. Like when you don't know what's going to happen and everything's breaking down, you throw it up and Cortland Sutton gets the ball. Correct. But when you want someone that's going to be open and that can make the separation after catching the ball, that's when you throw it to Jerry Jeudy. So I think, to me, Jerry Jeudy is the number 1 potential wide receiver on the Broncos.
And they'll all be able to play off one another.
Yeah.
Watch it be KJ Hamler.
Yeah.
Just come out of nowhere. Just come out of nowhere.
He's gone through. My goodness. His story was just insane.
So there was an ESPN story that ranked rosters of the NFL. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to save that for hopefully the show tomorrow because all the AFC. But they did break down who they thought was going to be the starting roster of the Broncos. So they've got Russell Wilson at quarterback, obviously. If they had anybody else, I'd be a little upset. And then Javonte Williams, Sutton, Patrick, Judy, Albert O. And then for the line, they had Garrett Bowles, Dalton Reisner. At center, they've got Cushenberry, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
At right guard was Quinn Miners, and then right tackle was Billy Turner. Now, we talked right tackle before, and I was always under the assumption that Billy Turner was brought in to be the starting right tackle. But from everything I'm hearing, it sounds like Calvin Anderson is showing better so far than everyone we've seen at right tackle, which is fine.
Turner hasn't played, Mike. So like that's
exactly
why.
That's why.
Yeah.
And then defensive wise, DJ Jones, and then they have Ioma Uwazurike. So the rookie interior defensive lineman. Then they have Draymond Jones after him.
Wow.
And then it's Chubb, Gregory, Jewel, Griffith, Surtain, Darby over K'Wan Williams, and then Simmons and Jackson, not Stearns. So I thought that was interesting that they had Uwazurike in there over Draymond Jones. But Draymond is more outside though, isn't he? Not inside.
Right. That's why they had him.
So,
They had him on the outside.
Right
there. You know what's nice about that, Mike, is when you're like debating who's should be where. That's a good thing because it shows that Peyton has brought depth in many of the positions on the team, so that there are options there.
It's a good problem to have.
Yep, absolutely.
Shadow Jacker, day one training camp star. He says Timmy P. I'm going with last year's KJ Hamler.
Yeah, Mike
Not
says
Judy?
it because I said KJ Hamler. Look at him switch up.
Jump right in front of you. Okay, so one last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is going to be kind of an open-ended question, not necessarily just for the Broncos, but it was asked before, and I want to kind of follow up on it. What fan base most deserves a Super Bowl?
That hasn't won one, or that
doesn't matter.
Okay.
And that's where it comes into it. Like, does a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl before deserve it more than a team that has won it and just hasn't won it in a long, long time?
See, a year ago, I would have said the Cleveland Browns, but now I don't want them to sniff.
No,
anything,
they don't even get to sniff
right?
it.
Nope.
If it's not the Broncos, I mean, obviously.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Mark, what's up? I mean, probably the Jets. I mean, they haven't won a Super Bowl since. I mean, the Jets consistently fill that stadium. They haven't won a Super Bowl since before I was born.
Namath.
I mean, Bill was in,
Bill was in college.
You can laugh, Jeremy. It's okay. You can laugh.
No, see, listen, I'm excited that Jeremy decided to join the show because there for a while it was me, Glenn, and Bill, and I was like, all right, so it's going to be the Ben Gay, Baby Powder, and Mike show, which was freaking me out because I had all the old guys and me.
I just want to know who's been. Well, never mind.
Jeff,
I don't want to know. Forget it.
Oh my gosh, Jeff just said an answer. I'm like, I want to backtrack on mine. I want to pull a Mike with the KJ and the Jerry Judy.
Well, yeah, and that's where I was going to go, but I was having a debate between Buffalo because they went to the four straight and lost them all, and then the Lions because the Lions are one of those teams that went 0-16 multiple times.
But they haven't. They don't consistently. Oh,
not the fan base. No, not the Lions fan base.
Don was repping for his brother though. That was
I know, but like in my head, it was like, okay, so Buffalo went to four straight, lost them all. So Buffalo, like the fan base, definitely deserves one.
By the way, that has nothing to do with Von Miller going there, so don't even in the chat.
I didn't even think about that. But yeah,
please
but
stop.
No, but then there's the Lions, like, and as bad as the Jets have been, like the Lions have been so bad for so long, and the fans stuck with them. So for me, I don't know which one I would pick, Buffalo or the Lions.
Well, since everybody decided to steal my answer, I'll just go with the Arizona Cardinals then, because they're the oldest existing franchise in the National Football League. So that would be great for history's sake.
Well, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. They went to 4 Super Bowls in the 70s with Fran Tarkenton and that entire Purple People Eater defense, and they lost all 4. and that fan base is stuck with them too. And so I would say the Vikings.
That's funny. Stuck with them. Let's see what we got here. Jeffrey says Buffalo hands down. Shadow Jacket says Jets. Adon obviously said Lions.
I was gonna make it all epic too. I was gonna be like, in the words of the great Chris Berman, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. But
you still
no.
did it.
Okay.
Now listen. I understand that the Charger fans might want a Super Bowl, but 5 fans don't get to decide who
you got to even out that ratio in the stadium there before in a home game before you get to win a Super Bowl. You got to even out that ratio.
No AFC West team can win except for the Broncos. So
and Jeff has pointed out that it's the people, and that's the thing that I've heard the most about the Bills fans. Just Bills Mafia. They're just
nobody suffered more than they.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I mean, wide right.
Yeah.
When you hear wide right, what do you think of?
First Super Bowl. What was it?
And then
Norwood. Scott Norwood.
And then Thomas Thurman forgetting his was his helmet, and then he finally got it.
Thurman Thomas missing that.
Couldn't find the helmet.
Missing that play. Yeah. No, I watched that back when they went over the
painful
the 4 Super Bowls that the Bills lost.
Like Jim Kelly was a great guy.
The fact that like the first one was the one that they should have won, and then it just kept getting worse every year. Like the team kept getting better, but they kept getting worse.
We know Albert, no doubt.
Yeah, we know Albert. We just wanted to poke fun at the Chargers.
I think Albert lives among Chiefs fans now. So I mean, he's facing it from all directions.
Imagine the Rockies from 2007, and then that happening 4 straight years, where you just sweep your way and you're just running over teams all the way to the World Series, and then you just get blown out in 4 games. Imagine that 4 straight years in a row. That's pain.
No, and I know I pulled this one up before, but like the Bills fans greeting their team off the plane at 3 a.m. on a loss, like that's dedication, man.
In Buffalo.
That's nuts. In Buffalo.
February.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that so many players stay in Buffalo, like that is not a warm place. One of the stories that I've been told by a friend of mine that was spending a lot of time up there was when Fitzpatrick was with the Bills, they would have a like potluck, like block party dinner after the games in his neighborhood. And he would actually like make a slow cooked meal and show up after a game with his neighbors and the fellow fans and be hanging out just as a Bills guy. And I think that was kind of evident when they had the playoff game in Buffalo, and there he was with the shirt off, in the stands when it was freezing cold. I mean, it's just a special breed. I apologize for putting the Jets above that.
How dare you?
The Bills fans got to suffer more because when it came time to be like, okay, we need a new stadium, we should probably put a roof on this. They're like, nope, we're just going to build it further into the ground. You guys don't get a dome. We'll just build it further into the ground. So apparently it'll just act as a wall or something. Yeah, it's just terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And I'm not surprised about, them having meals with the players. I mean, nobody wants to live in Buffalo. So yeah, they probably could go walk down the street without being bothered. Wow. It's the Antarctica of America. 6 months out of the year, -3 is a good day. They're all wearing shorts out there. They're like, it's amazing.
Playing golf.
Crazy.
So let me ask you guys this, and in the chat can chime in too. Would it be better? Like, is it better to have loved than lost, to never have loved at all? Like, is it better to have gotten to the Super Bowl and lost, or over and over again, or would you just prefer not to be dealing with that pain?
I'd rather
go ahead.
I'd rather have the Seahawks result than have to live with the stinging losses of the Baltimore Ravens and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mm-hmm. I really would. I'd rather just get there and get my brains blasted out, and not even have a chance than have it come close by one play, because that wide right stings bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you always hear people saying like, this person has experience going to the Super Bowl. They know what it takes to go to the Super Bowl. So while the pain of losing it would hurt more, having that experience of like knowing, and again, I have not been, nor will I ever be an NFL football player. This would be a good phantom question. Ha! Snuck it in. But like being able to know what it takes in order to get to a Super Bowl, I think would be more valuable than having never made it at all.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But like you mentioned, going back to the Buffalo thing, I cannot imagine. I mean, we lost multiple Super Bowls, Bronco fans had to endure, not 4 in a row. And to lose 4 straight like that, I mean, think about it. No one's ever done it before or since. I don't think it's ever going to happen again. But that being said, just the joy of knowing your team is there 4 straight years in a row has got to be exhilarating. Painful at the same time, but exhilarating.
I will say that, it was great for the Broncos to be in there, but when they got blown out by San Francisco, that was one where I would have preferred that they just hadn't even been there.
Absolutely. And every loss that we had, every Super Bowl after that got worse until we won the 2.
I'd rather have the 49ers result in 89. Just being
So
absolutely.
So which one is worse, getting blown out of the Super Bowl from the very beginning or losing it at a field goal at the end?
Oh, very beginning.
Blown out. Yeah.
I'd rather get blown out. That way you know you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
That Jacksonville Jaguars and that Baltimore Ravens game, they sting so bad till this day. Especially the Baltimore Ravens more than anything because they made it and they won. Like that should have been us. It was our chance to get revenge against the San Francisco 49ers in the exact same place that they beat us in 1989. That was our chance. That was our chance to do it and whoop them 55-10.
I don't know, man. I think I'd rather lose the Super Bowl in like a last-second field goal because then, at least you're in the game. You know, there's a chance you could win. Yeah, I know it stings, but like at the same time, then it's like okay. So when the snap went over Peyton Manning's head, then you're sitting there for the whole rest of the Super Bowl, like, well, this is stupid. I
walked out at halftime. I knew that was over. I knew it was over.
I would rather be in the game, like excited that we could win, and then come up with excuses after the game because we lost on a last-second field goal. There was a blade of grass that was too long and got in the way of his kick, and that's why he missed it.
Jeremy, you say that you turned the game off at halftime. I've never turned a Bronco game off, even 55-10. I said to myself, if the Broncos are going down, I'm going down with them. It hurt. It was tough to see Jerry Rice catch pass after pass. Yeah. But I figured, you know what? I got to be there for him, even though I'm, 1/3 across the country from him.
I'm not a person to sit there and watch mutilations of teams. I would rather just not see it.
So we were in the stadium. My wife and I went, and when the snap went over the head, I looked over and I was like completely dumbfounded because it was half a second into the game. So with that offense, I really believe that the Broncos had a chance to come back after halftime. They were shut out, and so no one goes to the bathroom during the halftime show. So Bruno Mars and the Chili Peppers did their thing. I'm in the bathroom. They're piping in the announcers. Kickoff to Percy Harvin. He runs it back for a touchdown. I'm like standing there at the urinal going, it's over, man.
I'm going home.
It was brutal.
It was.
But yeah, that is I appreciate you guys for joining. That's going to about do it for us. We're going to go ahead and head out of here. So we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Not only Jeremy and Bronco Bill, but the Phantom. We want to thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Make sure you check in the description below for all of the links to his social medias. And always make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow, turn on notifications. Also, make sure you tune into our other shows, the Wild Wild West on Wednesdays, the MHRT Rewind on Thursdays, and Broncos Breakdown with Bronco Bill every Friday. And like I said, to start the show off, when season 3 of the MHRT Network starts, that is when we're getting the fantastic neighborhood play-by-play show with Bill and Jeremy. We'll have some other people joining in for the Broncos games, but it's going to be Jeremy and Bill for the Avalanche games, as well as the Cluster Puck. I said that right, Bill. The Cluster Puck podcast.
With the P.
That's with the P.
With a P. The Cluster Puck podcast. That's going to be going every week during the Avalanche season as well. So make sure you check that out. Thanks, everybody, for joining. We will see you later. We got to head out.
Thanks much.
Oh, bye-bye.